Well, could there finally be a new flagship Android smartphone? Maybe Samsung hopes so. We've got Walt Mossberg from All Things D here to tell us about his review of the new Samsung Galaxy S3. Walt, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Rolf, I'm glad to be here. And here is the phone.
Big screen.
And the interesting thing about this is the third in the Samsung Galaxy series. And of course, there are dozens or hundreds of Android phones. And they outsell the iPhone collectively, but none of them has become anywhere near as big a hit or a household name as the iPhone. And Samsung's trying to change that with this model by having exactly the same phone without the carriers changing the design, without the carriers renaming it, on all four major US carriers, and of course overseas carriers as well.
Now, Walt, you say in your review that it lacks a game-changing feature. Are there,
right.
But there are some features that are notable?
Yeah, what they did basically was, first of all, let me just say it's a very good phone. It does all the major things you want a phone to do very well. It's a very, very good example of what Android can do. It has a huge screen, and some people will like that and some people won't. But to your point, they added, I don't know, dozens of little features on here, some of which people may like. There's about 8 different ways, I'm not making that number up, to share pictures and files and other content. But in a lot of the cases, it takes a bunch of setup. You need to learn the feature. You need to have other people who have the same phone or some other Samsung device. Mm-hmm. And so I just felt like they were kind of not focusing, not saying what are the 1 or 2 new added things we can put on here that will kind of really make people sit up and notice. And instead, they just loaded a ton of what I would call secondary things on here, and I think they should have done something less and something more focused.
It does have a voice-activated digital assistant, kind of like Siri?
It does. It's called S-Voice. It does a couple of things that Siri doesn't do. Apple very deliberately limited what Siri could do because it's a beta. And this does things like you can turn Wi-Fi on and off, you can launch an app, which Apple has already announced they're going to have in their new iPhone. I have to say, just like Siri, it works some of the time, and it didn't work other times.
And I
think there's another important thing to note about this, Rolf, if I could. People with Android phones know that one of the big problems has been getting the latest version of Android, being sure that you can upgrade your phone. And in fact, Samsung and others have had relatively recent phones that people have bought and then wound up saying, well, it won't accept this new version of Android. I asked Samsung, could they guarantee that this new phone will run the next version, the next couple of versions of Android, and they could not promise me that. They said they hadn't been able to test it with the next version of Android. They didn't know. They did leave room in the memory of this in case Android next time gets bigger, but they can't really promise that it will work.
Okay, now tell me, Walt, buy this phone or should I wait for the iPhone 5?
Well, it sort of depends what your situation is right now. If you're an Android lover and you're due for a new phone, I think this would be a good choice. If you're if your current phone is okay and you're not theological about it, you'll buy whatever you think you like the best. Given that I expect the iPhone 5 to be out in October and it's already almost July, I would say, why not wait and see, and then you can make your comparison.